Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Punching Through, where we are chatting with women leaders who have blazed a trail and are an inspiration to one and all. Today's episode is especially exciting. I'm here with the woman who is behind this entire series. Scarlett, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vanita. Happy to be here. Anytime I get to talk with you about the world of business and women and the two of those things coming together is always a fun conversation. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. And like, if you don't mind, I'd love to share with everybody, how this whole thing came about. We were at Money 2020. Scarlett, you're the Chief Strategy Officer, and you just had a baby. So I met you at the Money 2020 Amsterdam, where you were about to go on maternity leave, and then 3 months later, you're magically back, controlling everything, in charge of all of the happenings at Money 2020. And I ran into your parents with your newborn baby, and you were posting about how you switched out your sandals for sneakers and how you were momming as well as, and what was the term that you came up with?
Mommy 2020.
Mommy 2020.
And I cannot take credit for that because that was actually from a woman on my team who actually came up with that, because I knew I wanted to, for the first time, publicly share a bit more about that journey, because I've been very intentional about keeping my personal life separate. And so I was like, how can I do this with a thing that's kind of catchy? And the Mommy 2020 came out, which I thought was brilliant. So that was not my brainchild, but I will take credit for it now.
That's how you made it what it became, right? And then so I ran into you in the hallway and we were chatting about it, and I said, leaning in was important, but I think now women are punching through. And then Tiffany and I came up with this, the concept of the series, and I said, I have to have you. So Scarlett, let's get started. Maybe talk a little bit about, your career journey. What was a pivotal moment that made you, take a leap into the world that you're in today?
Oh man, Vanita. Okay, so this is meant to be short, so I'll try to think of the shortest version of this, because I've had a few pivotal moments in my career, but I would say probably the first was I had always excelled academically, and that was a lot because of effort, maybe a little bit less because of intellect. I don't know, but
there's a lot of intellect there. So
I certainly tried very hard. And I've always been quite ambitious from a young age and had big ambitions from the very beginning. And so I was in the top of my class looking at what was next. I went to a school in New York called Fordham, which was a school that really connected and resonated with me when I came out of high school. And it was nice to be in the big New York City, but in a more small environment. Anyways, long story short, they have a really strong accounting program and a big recruitment rate to the Big Four. So that's what I started as an accounting major, and I do like numbers. And then after graduating, looking at the opportunities, I actually went and lived in China, studied abroad there, but that's a whole story for a different day. In any case, that was the first pivotal moment before my professional career even started, which was I need to do something that I'm passionate about and that I really enjoy. And that's not accounting. And I do like accounting, but that's not a career. I want to be interacting with people. I enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoy things that are intellectually stimulating for me, which is solving new problems in different ways and things like that. So that was the first moment. And then, ended up at a startup, took a real sharp right turn into banking. Again, never saw that coming. But my startup was a data visualization tech company, and we had clients in all these different sectors, one of them in banking. And BBVA had reached out and asked us to apply to their startup competition. We were kind of debating, my co-founder and I, whether or not it was the right thing for us to do, because that wasn't really our core focus. We were more going for large events and marketing companies. And we did. We became a finalist. We went down to Mexico City. Few months later, I ended up joining a bank, which I never saw coming. So that was another pivotal moment, which was really connected to the right people, believed in the culture, believed in the strategy. And I had a unique value and background that they did not have that helped them get to where they wanted to go. And so the fact that a big bank, a global bank like that with nearly $1 trillion in assets and 40,000 plus employees at the time wanted me without a banking background, to me was a really strong indicator of a good match. So that was probably the most pivotal, and I have many others, but we'll stop there.
But that's amazing, because as you were describing it, I'm also hearing a person who's actually open to challenging what you know as given, and doing something which is, or marching into the unknown. So while the big bank took a chance on you without a banking knowledge, kind of took a stake on your career, took a chance on your career by going and doing that. So I think, a lot of women struggle with that. So I'd love to kind of understand a little bit more what made you kind of just say that you're going to follow your passion, or you're going to be open to unknown.
Yeah, I think one of the key things, and it's hard, especially, so I grew up in a really small town in Colorado and then moved to New York for college, as we discussed. And one thing that New York taught me, or continues to teach me, is it's quite a humbling place. And you feel like you're at the top of your game, but then you realize that you're in an environment where everyone is at the top of their game.
Yeah.
And so, but through that process, and there were a lot of downs, which I clearly don't talk about as often publicly, where there was a lot of moments of self-doubt. But one thing that did kind of remain consistent when I picked myself up was, whatever I do, I'm going to figure it out. And even if it doesn't work out in this case, there's learnings or things that I can take to go on to where I'm going next. And if you look at my career and look at the duration of times that I stayed at different places, there was a lot of learnings and things that did not work quite the way that I expected to. But how did I use that to those moments as learning moments to see what is it that I actually wanted to do? And even with Money 2020, I had loved the brand. It is such an incredible place. I've been an attendee, I've been a sponsor, I've been a speaker, I've done it all before this current capacity in this role for the last 3 years. And when there was a different opportunity that first came up in 2019, and I got to know Tracy Davies, our president, and a handful of other people at the organization pretty well. And I loved the culture and the people, but I'm like, but I don't see my career in events. So I passed, basically. We found a way to work together where I was a consultant for Money 2020, and it was a really, really amazing experience. But back to your question of, even in this example now, when this came to fruition 3 years ago, it was me getting out of my own head of what my career should be, because it's sexy to be an X, Y, or Z. And I don't see myself in events, but really we're so much more than an event. And the reality is I love what I do every single day. So the label is less important, is more about being at the right place where I'm passionate, where I also can have the biggest impact at scale. And I found that home in spades here. So that's been really, really nice.
And I think the other thing you just said in the beginning of right now is about the downs, the lows, the failures, right? And I think sometimes they are the ones that give you the confidence, the self-assurance to kind of move away from the labels and doing what you really enjoy, because you know that you're gonna make a difference, you're gonna have an impact. And I remember seeing you interview Serena Williams, who's arguably the greatest athlete of all times, and you held your own, like you met her at a peer level. And I think, that, and I would hazard a guess that all of those downs, the self-doubts, and all of those things that you powered through have had something to do with it. My next question is about, let's kind of talk a little bit about Money 2020, which, and I have attended it for, since the beginning, pretty much. And I've seen the demographic change, right? From being a very male-dominated event to an event with more females. And actually, it's so gratifying to see the leaders be female as well. So tell me a little bit about how some of these changes come about, and what are some of the things that you're most excited about?
Such a good question and so many answers. Yes, first of all, I agree with you that over time, as the show has continued to evolve, and we've now been around for 10 plus years, there has been a very strong and concerted effort around making sure that the demographics more accurately reflect what the industry is. Now, let's be very clear. It's finance and technology, probably the two most arguably like white male dominated industries in the world. So putting those two together is quite hard to overcome. But I think there was a few explicit things that happened from early days. And this is a full testament to Tracy Davies, who's our president, and obviously the people around her to enact and implement these things. But she was very adamant on walk before you run, right? So we're not going to change it tomorrow, and all of a sudden we're going to get 50% women doing this or whatever else. But she started with specific KPIs, even from the content team across the stages. We expect X percentage of women across all stages. And that doesn't mean that they go in on the smaller stage or whatever else. That's from the biggest stage to the smallest stage. We need to make sure that that's reflective. Clearly, with the start of Rise Up and then later Amplify, Rise Up has been around for over 5 years now. That is a program dedicated specifically for women and helping to empower them, strengthen them, and get them to the next level of their career. And career is an interesting statement there because it started very much with corporate women, but over time has been much more of a mix of corporate and entrepreneurial women who, there's still career opportunities even if you run your own company. So in all of those cases, there was a lot of concerted effort starting early, and then the intention and focus on making them bigger and better and moving the needle every year, which now, as of 2024, or let's just say 2023, because it's what we have the data for, we were almost exactly 45% women.
That's so amazing. That is so amazing. And it's not like to your point, you're filling the smaller stages or you are getting them, and you're getting anybody to just fill the spot. These are like badass women who have really had an impact on the world of finance and commerce. Finally, Scarlett, sorry, did you want to add something?
No, I just said totally.
What advice would you have for someone that is just up and coming, somebody who's just starting on their career journey? What are the things that you would go back and tell the Scarlett who just moved to New York from a small town in Colorado?
I think it doesn't matter about how early you are in your career. I mean, of course it matters, but there is something like, what is your unique identifier? Like, what is something that makes you, the secret sauce of you? And whatever that is, use that as your power going forward, because you could walk into the room with any of the most senior people that, we've talked about, and they are way more accomplished and have done so many things that, many of us would dream of, but there could still be something that you could teach them. And that one thing could be a small thing. It could be the most valuable thing for them in that moment. And getting to know what that unique thing is early will make your career trajectory go a lot faster, is what I would say. And I wish I would have known what that was back then to the same degree that I do now.
Experiment, be okay with having your lows and powering through, trust in yourself, and then do what you're passionate about. That's such great advice, Scarlett. And always a pleasure talking to you. You are an inspiration. I get inspired when we chat. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for listening in. I will see you on another episode of Punching Through.